pull outside the door.
If you're going to be the general manager, you got to lock
right?
in.
I was like, Matt,
focus.
Matt's here? Is this a fun surprise? Joining us right now from the Athletic on the video.
Yes.
Matthew Barrows. Good morning, Matt.
Yeah, maybe around Christmas I'll give you the gift of my presence.
Yes, that would be fun.
Just show up.
You know what? That's a great point.
We should have Matt in studio one time.
Matt Barrows' presence would be presence.
Yes. We don't need presents. We need his presence.
My gift is presence.
Yes.
What?
His gift.
My gift is presence.
Yes, gotcha.
Oh, my goodness.
Matt's joining us. Sorry. Matt's joining us right now on the, you know what? I'm going to repeat something I said to Jason on the show earlier, which I also said to Greg Papa last week. I'm going to hit you with it for the trifecta, Matt. So last week coming into this game, sorry, I said, I as a professional, I do not know how to cover the 49ers and explain their wins. I don't know how to preview. Like, I think the question was, this is how the Niners could win this weekend or something like that. I'm like, I don't know how they can win this weekend other than they've won weird games before that they shouldn't have. And all year long, it seems, most of their games have been, I have no idea how the hell they just did that. And I can't give you a great take on it other than box score numbers. I feel like, unfortunately, Matt, it's a hell of a lot easier to talk about and, dare I say, maybe write about with logic last weekend than it has been some of these wins.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that the Rams game yesterday was just, it was just plain from jump that the defense, especially the defensive line, was overmatched. They had to kind of concoct a lot of different blitzes, and they used a dime defense like they haven't to this point in the season. And the Rams weren't fooled. And in fact, the 49ers ended up fooling themselves a couple of times. They had 12 men on the field twice. They had to call a last-second timeout on one of them, and then they got penalized on the second one. It just seemed like a team that it was coming off of two road games, had all sorts of injuries, and they just looked exhausted to begin the game. They got a little bit better in the second quarter, but I never really felt like the Rams were threatened at all in that game.
Yeah, I mean, when you give up 42, you're likely not going to win, and they put themselves in such a deep hole. But kind of like the season, Matt, they did a good job of getting back into it, even while missing on a fourth down, leaving some of the points out there. This team still has that compete level to stay in these games, but yeah, I'm with you. It never felt like while they were hanging around that they were ever going to win the game yesterday.
Yeah, the Rams were just too powerful. And I mean, if you could put side by side the team's practice reports, their injury reports, I think the Rams had one guy on their 53-man roster who didn't practice last week. And the 49ers are routinely in the high teens in that category. And they didn't lose, but three defensive linemen, the one position they can't afford a single additional injury. It had three guys get hurt in practice on Thursday. And one of them, Alfred Collins, was the hero of the Week 5 game against the Rams. So, I mean, it's just impossible to win under those circumstances. And I thought that this was the first game, maybe the game in Houston a couple of weeks ago, but I just felt like the energy level inside Levi Stadium, good crowd. They were there in the beginning, but it just evaporated so quickly, and they couldn't get it back. The game against the Falcons in Week 7, that was the first game that they were playing without Fred Warner. And they would show Warner on the big screen in certain instances, and he just got the fans going. There was electricity, there was passion, everything. And they showed him on Sunday in the Rams game, and the crowd sort of clapped, and he did the thing where he wants everybody to rise up, and they did to a degree, but that degree was so much less than what we saw in Week 7. They were just devoid of energy for this game, and you can understand why. Most teams have had their bye by now. The 49ers still have to wait 3 more weeks
Yes.
for their bye. This is the team that needs a bye more badly than any team in the league, and it doesn't come until the first week in December.
Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Giants, even. The schedule maybe has masked a little bit some of the holes as the season's gone on. They do have some quality wins, but still, it is on paper been a much easier schedule than last year at least. But Matt, also, just kind of zooming out, do you think maybe their struggles this year and a little bit last year are masking the fact that John Lynch has actually had a pretty decent draft classes going, and I know the window is closing on a lot of these guys, but even though they're hurt, just Collins, Williams, Stout, and you go back to last year and Pooney and a lot of these other guys coming in. Who's my guy, Malik Mustafa? I think John Lynch arguably has had maybe his best 2 years of drafting in his tenure, at least up there.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why they weren't more aggressive at the trade deadline this year, is because they have confidence that they can do something with those picks. I think that they've kind of figured out the type of linebacker that they like, for example, and they feel pretty confident about drafting linebackers and drafting safeties and drafting cornerbacks. I think, wide receivers is still kind of a crapshoot. Running back is still kind of a crapshoot for them. But yeah, I think, the longer a front office stays married to a coaching staff, the better the team drafts. And this has been one of the longer tenures in the NFL. I thought that one of those guys that you mentioned, Dominic Pooney, you remember he was injured in the preseason. I think it took him a while to recover from that injury, and he wasn't playing like the 2024 Dominic Pooney. Yeah. I think these last 2 games, he's been back, and he looks a lot better. And then the other guard position looks better too. They rotated Spencer Burford and Ben Barch at left guard yesterday. I think Burford got 2 series and then Barch would come in for 1 series. And I think that position was better. So the guard positions were better. I think the running has been better. I think Brian Robinson, who's really good between the tackles, is the beneficiary of that. And he's had his 2 best games of the season. So, I mean, you have to kind of squint and look hard for silver linings from yesterday, but there are a couple there, and that's really how this team would ever kind of compete. For a playoff spot in the playoffs, it would have to be because the offense is suddenly firing on all cylinders, because the defense just, it has no recourse to get better. I mean, there's nobody coming back to save that team. They've got 3 major players out for the season. I guess there's a slight chance that Fred Warner could be back if they went into the playoffs.
Really?
But probably not. So it's really up to the offense to kind of save the day.
Talking with Matt Barrows from The Athletic, brought to you by Stockton Honda. Matt, I was going to ask you about that, kind of the playoff picture. I mean, look, there's a lot of football still to go. But this win-loss track the Niners have been on now for the first time in a while, if the playoffs ended today, they would be out of the NFC playoff picture. Again, there's a long way to go here. But, kind of where do you think they stack up? Because at times they can look like a team that belongs in that maybe top 4 or so in the NFC. But the defense now with the injuries that you're alluding to just feels like they might be a notch or 2 below the rest of that top group.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think they're very much third in their own division, and they'll be fighting for that Sunday in Arizona. Which one of us is third and which one is fourth? But yeah, I mean, I think that they're still in the running for those last, couple of playoff spots. It reminds me of a couple of playoff teams from last year. Remember all the injuries that the Detroit Lions had on defense? They lost their star pass rusher, and they were winning games. They won a lot of games, but they had to score 35, 40 points, including in a game against the 49ers late in the season to win. And then they go into the playoffs, and they're a surprise loss to the Washington Commanders. And I think the Washington Commanders are kind of similar too last year. They had a really good offense, a fantastic QB. Terry McLaurin was catching all sorts of great passes, but when they played a legitimate team, the Philadelphia Eagles, they had the doors blown off them. So I think that's who the 49ers are, and that's best case scenario. That's the offense really kind of bringing it up one or two more notches and being able to score 35, 40 points a game. But it's just very hard to see the defense stopping any offense of note at this point. Any quarterback worth his salt, I think, is going to have, at least at the very least, a lot of opportunities against this team.
Matt Barrows joining us. Matt, I just, this is one of those, you're around the team and you have a better feel for the team than anybody else on the face of the earth that isn't in those rooms every day. Mac Jones yesterday in the loss, 33 of 39, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and you heard some rumblings. Are we even okay? If a quarterback controversy is downtown Sacramento, are we even in Elk Grove?
Yeah, no, we're out in Placer County,
okay.
I think.
Okay.
Good reference.
Was it Pollock Pines? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh,
nice. There you go. Well done.
This is my Sac B days. Yeah, we're in Pollock Pines.
Okay.
I mean, I think everybody to a man appreciates Matt Jones, and he is really well liked within the locker room for sure. But I mean, Brock Purdy is just as, if not more, well liked. People like Brock Purdy, the playmakers on this team have all had career years under Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's made some guys a lot of money on this team. So I don't think that, I mean, if Matt Jones had, rallied the troops and come back and won that game 44-42, I think then it would be a question about who starts in Arizona. But I think that the loss, the level of the loss makes the transition back to Purdy a little bit easier. It's going to be happening on the road. It's in Purdy's home state of Arizona. So I think that it's probably going to be a Purdy game. We'll have to wait and see, like we have all year, about who's practicing on Wednesday, who's practicing on Thursday, yada, yada, yada. But it does seem as if a return to Brock Purdy is in the offing.
So you mentioned earlier about it being kind of that spot for third this week in a roundabout way here for the division with the Cardinals and the 49ers meeting for the second time this year. The first one came early. It was a weird game as well. The Niners did have Jones for that game. That was the game, if I'm not mistaken, that Bosa got hurt. It was low scoring, kind of a grind. How do you anticipate Sunday going in Arizona?
Yeah, they've had their share of injuries too, and they replaced their quarterback, or not replaced, but they put Kyler Murray on IR. So it's Jacoby Brissett and then some running backs that you've never heard of. They still have a tremendous tight end. And that was a big issue for the 49ers on Sunday. The Rams brought out 2, sometimes 3 tight ends, and the 49ers had really no answers for that. They scored a lot of touchdowns. They picked up a lot of first downs. So I think that's a question mark that the 49ers have to answer. I do think that, to your point, Jason, this has been a team that it's one of these kind of mid-level teams where they get embarrassed one week and then the next week they rally and they show up and they play really well. So I expect that from the 49ers. I think the Cardinals lost in a blowout as well. So it'll be a test of that theory, who can circle the wagons better. But I think that the 49ers are more talented. Maybe this is the Ricky Pearsall week, although he's been out for so long now that even if he returned to practice, very hard to see him getting a full slate of snaps in the game. So it's probably basically the same offense that we've been seeing, but with Brock Purdy under center. But I do think that the 49ers absolutely capable of scoring 30, 35 points, and I think if they got to that number, they probably come out with a win.
Matt Barrows joining us. The remainder of the schedule, and I know this is kind of a common theme here. It doesn't entirely blow you away, although there's a couple on there towards the end. You've got the Seahawks in division. You have the Rams in the division that are both doing well, and the Seahawks especially. It just seems after the trade deadline, you mentioned earlier why John Lynch probably didn't go full bore. This just seems like hey guys, sorry for the injuries, sink or swim, figure it out or don't figure it out. But at this point, I know publicly expectations are always Super Bowl, and I get it, but like internally, I gotta imagine they're being realistic there.
Yeah, I think so, and that's the fine line that they have to walk. Everything that they say is, we're fighting for this season. This season is important to us. We can still win, but everything they do is geared toward upcoming seasons. What they did in the off season. Not going full bore for any real, nothing more than modest trade pickups. Keon White a couple weeks ago. I think that their eyes are firmly on 2026 and 2027, and that they kind of realize that the handwriting is on the wall for this season. It would take a bit of a miracle for them to do any damage. And they're not in the playoffs right now. They would barely make the playoffs. They probably have to go someplace like Philadelphia or Green Bay in the opening round. And
Green Bay's fine.
Very hard to see them winning there. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Green Bay. That's death, taxes. Go to Green Bay, a lower seed, and kick the hell out of them. Yeah, it's fine. I get it.
Yeah, Matt, too, just on that note, as far as we were talking about the Niners and Arizona this week, it's also Seahawks and Rams. I know that's not the teams you cover, but you've seen both of them. That should be a good matchup. Who do you think wins that one in L.A. this weekend?
Yeah, somebody asked me that last night, and I picked the Seahawks, but not with a lot of confidence. I think it's that game's in L.A., right?
Yes.
Not that matters all that much, but I would still go with the Seahawks. I think that they're probably the more complete team. The defense is playing really well. They've got they did do a trade deadline and brought in a receiver. That was probably their one weakness, somebody to complement Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's a great game. I wish I could watch it on Sunday. It's going to be a battle for. It seems like the Seahawks, the Rams, the Eagles, and the Packers are probably the class of the conference right now.
Oh, you're the class in my conference, Matt. Anytime that conference is about the 49ers, best-selling books. And how's the book doing, by the way?
Yeah.
Book's doing great, yeah. We're making a Christmas time push to, get a few more sales in before the end of the year.
Okay. All right. Well, as we get closer, let's keep plugging it on the show. Let's get those numbers up, show the power of the program. I know you got a lot of longtime fans listening to you and always reading you as well at The Athletic, where you can subscribe. It's my subscription. I said to Sam Amick last week, just renewed last Tuesday for a full year, where you can get writers like Matt Barrows, Sam Amick, and so much more, even power rankings in all the sports, all for a low yearly price, Matt. We appreciate your time. As always, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, talk to you guys next week.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care. Bye-bye. I'm going to have a Christmas push.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll take a break. When we come back, What's on Deck, brought to you by Trex Decking and Railing. Remember, like on Silver Spoons or some of those other 80s type shows, they'd